Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. My name is Shellington Banda, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Phakama Research and Development. Our topic for today is Paper 2 Revision, and our subtopic is Revision on Legislation and the Human Resources Function, lesson number 4. Okay, let's move on to our lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, grade 12s, you should be able to answer section A, which are compulsory objective type questions in your business studies paper 2. And as our resource, we are going to be using the NSC Business Studies 2023 paper 2, and the questions will be coming from pages 3 to 5. And we are also going to be using the guidelines, exam guidelines of the DBE 2021. I would like to share with you, grade 12s, some exam tips. These are very key. These are very fundamental. You have to adhere to these tips that I'm sharing with you, because by so doing, you are going to be standing a good chance of scoring very high in your business studies paper. The first tip that I'm going to share with you is you have to make sure you read all the instructions carefully before answering the questions. You read all the instructions. Please don't rush into answering the questions before reading your instructions. Your business studies paper 2 consists of 3 sections, just like your paper 1, right? You have section A, section B, and section C. Section A, which this revision lesson focuses on, is compulsory, and that simply means every question must be answered. So don't leave any question unanswered in your section A. Read each question carefully, taking note of what is required before selecting an option. And also, it is very paramount that you number the answers correctly according to the numbering system used in the question paper. This is very, very important, because no marks will be awarded for answers that are numbered incorrectly. Make sure you spend at most 20 minutes to answer section A questions. Don't go beyond 20 minutes. Otherwise, you will be eating into the time meant for the subsequent sections B and C respectively. Okay, let's now look at our questions, right? We are going to start with questions 1.1.1 up to 1.1.5. So each question carries 2 marks, and the instruction is various options are provided as possible answers to the following first 5 questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter A, B, C, or D next to the question number in the answer book. For example, if for question 1.1.6, the answer happens to be D, you will then write D next to the question number 1.1.6. All right, let's delve into our questions. Question 1.1.1 reads, Emma will receive a predetermined amount invested in a dash when she reaches a certain age. A, fixed deposit. B, stokvel, C, retirement annuity, D, managed portfolio. Please think through the question and then opt for your best response. Okay, grade 12s, let's look at how you did in question 1.1.1. Yes, if you settled for option C, retirement annuity, you did very well. So you have 2 marks there. Retirement annuity. What is a retirement annuity? A retirement annuity is a financial product. This financial product provides a steady income stream to individuals in their retirement. So this is what you need to remember about the retirement annuity. Remember, the question here says when she reaches a certain age. This speaks to the retirement age. So Emma will receive a predetermined amount. This amount is actually determined before she goes on retirement. So when she gets to that age of her retirement, let's say maybe 60 years or 65 years, fixed annuity which provides a fixed rate of return. Right? We've got also what we call a variable annuity, which offers potential growth based on investment performance. So as you revise, these are things that you need to be bringing back into memory, the things that you learned as far as the retirement annuity is concerned. Okay, let's move on to question 1.1.2. Non-profit companies are able to raise money through various donations. This refers to dash as a criterion for contributing to the success of a business. Think through the question and then come up with the best response to the question. A, taxation. B, capital. C, division of profits. And D, legislation. Okay, we move on. Let's check the correct answer that you needed to pick there. Non-profit companies are able to raise money. I want you to take note of this. Non-profit companies, right? These are companies set up not to make a profit, but to simply provide a service, right? They are able to raise money, right? Raise money through various donations. What do we refer to that money that they need, right? Which will contribute to the success of that non-profit organization or non-profit company. Yes, you are right if you said the money that we are talking about here is what we refer to as capital. Right. What is capital? Capital refers to the type of funding an organization or a business needs to run its activities. For example, we've got financial capital, which a non-profit company in this case may raise by receiving grants, right? It could be funding grants, it could be donations, it could be through investments. All right. And this capital is very, very important, as you will remember, because it helps the non-profit organization or the non-profit company to achieve long-term sustainability. Also, this capital has a way of helping the non-profit to deliver its programs and services. So these are things that you need to remember, grade 12s. And as we have already mentioned, there are different sources, right, from which this capital may be received. For example, donations from individuals or donations from corporate entities. It may also be through grants, right, where there is funding from different foundations or from government agencies. And also, this non-profit company or non-profit organization may hold fundraising events through which they raise needed capital or needed funds. Okay, let's move on to question 1.1.3. It says, presenters use dash as a visual aid to display large illustrations of products to support the core message of their presentation. What do presenters use as a visual aid to display large illustrations of products to support the core message of their presentation? Is it an overhead projector? Is it a data projector? Is it flashcards? Is it posters? Think through your question and pick the most appropriate response. That's right. The answer that we require here is posters. All right. Visual aid. When we talk in terms of visual aids, we are referring to those aids or those props that have to do with sight. All right. So visual aid that can be used to display large illustrations of products to support one's core message as one does a presentation. That would be posters or a poster. All right. Let's move on to question 1.1.4. Chiliza traders submitted false returns to SARS. This is known as dash, a type of unethical business practice. Is this tax evasion? Is this unfair advertising? Is this tax avoidance? Is this abuse of work time? What do you think is the most appropriate answer? Okay, the answer that we needed here is tax evasion. All right, let's talk about tax evasion briefly. But before we talk about it, I want to draw your attention to this phrase here, false returns to SARS. False returns to SARS. SARS, as we know, is the South African Revenue Services, all right, where we pay our taxes, where businesses also pay their taxes. All right. So if this business, Chiliza Traders, submitted false returns to SARS, this already is an unethical business practice. Why? Because their returns are false. So a false return results in what we call an unethical business practice, and because they are trying to probably pay less than what they actually should be paying to SARS, that is then referred to as tax evasion, right? They are trying to evade paying a certain amount to SARS. So that amounts to tax evasion. So tax evasion is the illegal practice of intentionally or deliberately avoiding or underpaying taxes owed to the government. It could be by an individual, it could be by a business. And this tax evasion can include underreporting one's income, or falsifying records, or claiming false deductions. And there are consequences for evading tax, some of which are penalties and fines, or criminal charges may be raised against an individual or a business that evades paying their taxes. It can also lead to reputational damage, right, as an individual or as a company. And finally, still talking about tax evasion, I want to emphasize this. It's important as an individual or as a business to seek professional advice, right? Consult with tax professionals to ensure compliance. Every individual who is employed, right, every business must be compliant as far as paying taxes is concerned. Let's move on to question 1.1.5. Team leaders implement dash as a criterion for successful team performance by providing regular feedback to their members. Team leaders implement dash as a criterion for successful team performance by providing regular feedback to their members. So you think of providing regular feedback. Which of the following refers to that? A, cooperation. B, communication. C, shared values. D, interpersonal attitude and behavior. What's the most appropriate response? Yes, the most appropriate response there is communication. All right. Communication. Team leaders implement communication as a criterion for successful team performance by providing regular feedback to their members. All right. Effective communication, grade 12s, is effective for team leaders to implement as a criterion for successful team performance. Why do we say so? Right? We say so because this offers team leaders an opportunity to provide their members with regular feedback, right? As they communicate, they spell out in clear terms, right, their expectations in terms of the goals of a task to be achieved or the goals of the business, all right? They articulate the expectations that they have for their team members. They spell out in clear terms the roles each team member is expected to play. Okay. Also through communication, the team leader has a way of opening channels through which team members can make known their ideas or suggestions as to how the processes in the business can be made more effective. This comes with a lot of benefits, right? If communication is very good in a business or in an organization, there are benefits attached to that. One of which is improved collaboration, where teamwork is enhanced. Teamwork gets strengthened. Also, there is increased trust among team members, which gets achieved. And lastly, there is better informed decision making in the context where communication is maximized. All right, so if you got 5 out of 5, that is to say you've got 10 marks for the first 5 questions, grade 12s. These are marks that you definitely need. Please make sure that you do not lose marks unnecessarily. Let's now move on to our next set of questions, right? Question 1.2. We have still 5 questions for this segment, starting from 1.2.1 up to 1.2.5. These are the instructions. Complete the following statements by using the word or words provided in the list below. So here is the list of words that are provided. It says, write only the word or words next to the question numbers 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in the answer book. The words that you are going to be choosing your answers from are social, founders, situational, decision-making, economic, problem-solving, unlimited, transformational, bonus, and limited. Question 1.2.1 says, companies issue dash shares as compensation for unpaid dividends. Think through this statement and then pick the correct word which you will use to fill in the blank space. Okay, let's look at the word you needed to have picked there. The word is bonus. Companies issue bonus shares as compensation for unpaid dividends. All right. Remember, dividends, these are payments that are made out to shareholders, right, of a company. Okay, so here we are talking about bonus shares. Bonus shares are additional shares issued by a company to its existing shareholders without any additional cost on the part of shareholders. These are free shares, as it were, all right, in compensation for unpaid dividends. So if there are dividends that have not been paid, which may have been due to shareholders, the shareholders are compensated, they are rewarded by being offered what we call bonus shares. All right, we move on. Question 1.2.2. Coolsum Enterprise implements the dash leadership theory as the business operates in a dynamic environment characterized by constant change. What type of leadership theory is implemented by Coolsum Enterprise as the business operates in a dynamic environment? Dynamic means changing environment, right? It's not static, it's changing. So that's a dynamic environment characterized by constant change. So what type of leadership theory is used? or implemented. Yes, let's check the response, grade 12s. So Coulson Enterprise implements the transformational leadership theory. Transformational leadership theory. You need to remember the different types of leadership theories for you to be able to answer such a question as this satisfactorily or correctly. All right, so let's remind ourselves of what transformational leadership is all about. Transformational leadership is a leadership style that inspires and motivates individuals to achieve a shared vision. Okay, there are key characteristics to this type of leadership. Okay, one of which is visionary. All right, so the transformational leadership, right, is one which is a leadership that is very visionary. It inspires and motivates others with a clear vision. The leader sets out the vision of the organization in very clear, unambiguous terms. And secondly, this type of leadership is empowering, right? The transformational leadership is empowering. What do we mean by that? All right, this is a leadership style that empowers team members to take ownership and make decisions. Okay. Thirdly, this type of leadership is innovative. It encourages creativity and innovation among the team members. Team members are not stifled, right? They are encouraged to come up with innovative ideas that can take the vision of the organization forward. And fourthly, it is inspiring. Transformational leadership is inspiring. It motivates and inspires team members to achieve their best. So every team member feels motivated to want to give their all to the organization. All right. And finally, talking about the transformational leadership theory, I want to quickly mention the key behaviors of transformational leaders. These are leaders who lead by example, right? They lead by example. They show their team members the values that they want their team members to also exhibit, right? These are leaders who communicate effectively, right? These are leaders who build trust and foster respect among the team members. So such a leader, right, who leads by example, who communicates effectively, who builds trust and fosters respect among team members is a transformational leader. They engage the transformational leadership style. Okay, let's now move on to question 1.2.3. The personal assets of partners can be sold to pay off the debts of the partnership due to bankruptcy. This refers to dash liability. Which of the words or word do you think is most appropriate in this instance? That's right. Unlimited liability. Unlimited liability. So it says here, the personal assets, personal, these are assets belonging to the owner of the business, right, can be sold, right? So the personal assets of partners, right, it could be an individual, it could be two people who are in a partnership in business, their assets, their personal assets can be sold to pay off the debts of the partnership due to bankruptcy. Should this business go bankrupt, right? That is to say the business is no longer viable. It's not making any profits. It's actually running into losses to the point that it eventually becomes bankrupt, right? The personal assets of the partners can be sold to offset the debts of that business. We refer to this as unlimited liability. All right. Unlimited liability refers to a situation where an individual or business owner is personally responsible for all debts and liabilities of the business. And this simply means that personal assets of these individuals are at risk. It could be a house, it could be vehicles, it could be financial resources that they may have in their bank accounts. All right, so there is no separation between personal and business assets. And the business structures that can be classified as being unlimited, as having unlimited liability, these would be sole proprietorships, right? Also partnerships. You'll remember a sole proprietor, that's a one-person business. Then a partnership could be between a business owned by two people, right? So these are business structures that have got unlimited liability. Should a business fail, the owner's personal assets are at risk. All right, let's go to question 1.2.4. Bravo advertisers implemented the DASH process when they analyzed situations to identify strategies necessary for change. Bravo advertisers implemented what type of process when they analyzed situations to identify strategies necessary for change? Think through that and pick your most appropriate word or words. Okay, if you chose problem solving, you got it. Bravo advertisers implemented the problem solving process when they analyzed situations with the intention of identifying strategies necessary for change. So here you need to remember grade 12's what goes into the problem solving process, right? When we talk into the problem solving process, we are referring to a strategic approach to analyzing situations and identifying solutions for change in a business. Let me quickly share with you the overview of this problem solving process. Firstly, you define the problem. That is, you have to clearly articulate the issue or the problem that needs to be solved. Secondly, you gather information, right, where you collect relevant data that will enable you to come up with the appropriate strategy. Then 3, you then need to analyze the situation, all right, identifying root causes. What are the causes, all right, that have led to this problem? Then from there, you generate solutions, right? Develop potential solutions to that issue or to that problem. Then evaluate the options. That is to say, assess potential impact of each solution. What impact is each solution going to have, right? You don't want something that will have a negative impact, but something that will actually alleviate the problem or the issue at hand. Then from there you implement the solution, right, where you are putting the chosen solution into action. And then from there you monitor and evaluate that solution which you have proposed. Okay, track the effectiveness of that solution and make adjustments where needed. That's the overview of your problem-solving process. All right, let's now move on to question 1.2.5. Businesses promote rights by providing clean water and healthcare services to their employees. What type of rights do businesses promote when they provide clean water and healthcare services to their employees? That's right. Social rights. Okay? Businesses promote social rights by providing clean water and healthcare services to their employees. Someone may ask, why are these referred to as social rights? Social rights can actually be used, there are terms that we can use interchangeably with social rights. For instance, terms like human rights or labor rights. These are rights that specifically focus on access to essential services and benefits that provide the social welfare of employees in the workplace. So this is why we refer to the provision of clean water and healthcare services as part of social rights. Okay, these help promote the social welfare of the workers. All right, so if you got 5 in this segment, that is to say you scored yourself 10 marks. So for the first set of 5, you got 10, second set, another 10, that's 20. We now move to the last segment of our question 1. And the last segment is comprised of questions 1.3.1 to 1.3.5. All right, let's look at the instructions. The instructions say, choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Write only the letter A to J. So you've got letters A to J next to the question numbers 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book. For example, if for 1.3.6 the answer happens to be K, you will then affix the K next to that question number. And each question carries 2 marks. Right, so all the questions in question 1 of your paper 2 carry 2 marks each. All right, let's now move on and look at our table. So we've got here in our table, column A, where we've got terms that have been given to us, which we must find the corresponding description in column B, right? Like I always encourage my learners, you have to first read your terms in column A before you jump onto column B, where you then read your descriptions. So let's put that into practice. 1.3.1. RSA Retail Savings Bonds. 1.3.2. Excess. 1.3.3. Social Responsibility. 1.3.4, grievance, and 1.3.5, health and safety representatives. Then our column B, where we've got descriptions. A, businesses contribute time and effort to improve profitability for their investors. B, occurs when two employees have a disagreement in the workplace. C, ensures that personal protective clothing is available to all employees. D, paid by the insured when cancelling an insurance contract. E, investors receive interest annually. F, occurs when an employee has a complaint in the workplace. G, paid by the insured when a claim is lodged. H, provides employees with personal protective clothing. I, investors receive interest twice per year. And J, businesses contribute time and effort to improve the well-being of their communities. Okay, now that we have read every description there, we can then start to try and match our terms to the corresponding appropriate descriptions. All right, retail savings bonds, the RSA retail savings bonds. What are these? Right. These are a type of, it could be a fixed deposit, right? These are different, we've got different types of retail savings bonds, right? We've got fixed deposits, we've got notice deposits, we've got transaction accounts, right? So investors receive interest twice per year in these retail savings bonds, right? They receive interest twice per year. So for your 1.3.1, you would then say 1.3.1, the description is in I. So you will write your letter there next to your question number. Secondly, 1.3.2, excess. What is excess? Excess is the amount of money paid by the insured when a claim is lodged. When you are making an insurance payout claim, you are expected to pay a certain amount before the insurance company can release the claim. And that is what we refer to as excess. So for 1.3.2, your excess description is in G. So you would simply write the letter G. Then 1.3.3, social responsibility. All right, social responsibility has to do with businesses contributing time and effort to improve the well-being of their communities. Right? Businesses are encouraged to sow back, all right, or plant back in the communities where they operate. And that is what we refer to as social responsibility. So for your 1.3.3, you would then affix next to that number the letter J. Then we move on to 1.3.4. Grievance. What's a grievance? Right? A grievance occurs when an employee has a complaint in the workplace. right? If you are an employee of a company and you happen to have a complaint, you can lodge what we call a grievance, right? So for your 1.3.4, you would then pick the F as your answer. And finally, 1.3.5, health and safety representatives. Health and safety representatives. These are individuals who ensure that personal protective clothing is available to all employees, among other duties that they carry out, amongst other responsibilities that they have. They need to ensure that personal protective clothing is available to all employees. That's one of the responsibilities of health and safety representatives. So for 1.3.5, you would then affix next to it the letter C. Okay, so having done that, you have your 10 marks, because each of those terms properly linked to their description, you've got 2 marks for each one of them. So the total for your question 1 is 30 marks. I hope you managed to get all those questions correct. If not, you don't throw in the towel. You still go back and make sure you revise some more. Okay, let's now look at our homework grade 12s, right? So for your homework, you've got a table there with column A and column B. You are going to be matching the terms in column A with the descriptions in column B. Make sure you do that homework. It will really help you, give you good practice. Let's look at the summary of what we did in today's revision lesson. This revision lesson covered section A, questions 1.1 to 1.3, taken from the NSC Business Studies Paper 2 of 2023. And then the next lesson that we are going to have will be a further consolidation on how to answer Business Studies Paper 2, Section A, Question 1. You don't want to miss that lesson, because we will be looking at more concepts. Having said that, grade 12s, we have come to the end of our revision lesson number 4. Thank you for paying attention. All the best.